listening to AM Ocala Live, WOCA, The Source, 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, broadcasting to you live from the Paddock Mall. We're streaming live, YouTube Live, WOCA, The Source Radio. As we're rounding out our show here now, well, we got 20 minutes before the top of the 11 o'clock hour, working our way through as we try to do every Thursday, and now have been doing for a few weeks in a row. Of course, we have County Commission, Kathy Bryan on, and with that, in lieu of today, like we were mentioning last week, for everything that we were talking about information-wise within the county of COVID-19 and the coronavirus, we now have here, as he's coming in, welcome, partner. Welcome, Kathy.
Good morning.
Good to see you. I didn't get your name, partner.
I'm Mark Lander. I'm the administrator over at the health department.
Gotcha.
I brought the big dog in with me today.
That's right.
Where?
The horse's mouth, if you will, right?
Here.
Well, it's good. It's good to have you in here, as we said, from the health department, and we're, of course, the conversation already is. No one has to say, "Oh, what are we going to be talking about today?" It's pretty much assumed. But at this point, it's all about getting the information, the factual information that's important out to the community. This is what we're doing, and within the county as well. And let's start like this. As of right now, Marion County, we still have no reported cases. That's correct.
That's when I left the office this morning, we were still at 0 to come over here.
Okay.
So, and I like to just add this to it because, a lot of, I've had conversations with people. We are at 0 confirmed. I had someone send me a message the other night, and they wanted to know if I could confirm a non-confirmed case. And my answer to that question is that we certainly have the suspicion of non-confirmed cases.
Sure.
That's why people are sent for testing. So through all the screening that's been going on and the testing, as Mark stated, at this time we are at 0 confirmed cases.
Right, and that led to what we were talking about last week, that if anybody has felt any symptoms or anything like that, to contact you guys at the health department, as soon as possible, with having regular business hours and then after hours, and not only that, the dedicated 24-hour.
Right, and what we're asking individuals, if they may be symptomatic, showing signs, the first call, really, your primary care provider. They may have a PCP. Call the primary care provider and inform them. Now, that provider may not have the supplies to be able to test, and if that case, they can reach out. They'll reach out to their health department or their hospital systems, and from the health department's perspective, if we run them through. You still have to run through a screening process, because the testing is recommended when you look at individuals who have had travel restrictions, or they may be a contact to a case in another county. Right. Or it may be an individual, one of our high-risk population, over 65 years old, immunocompromised, other individuals, and those are the high-ranking, high-priority individuals that we run through our testing protocols. But the physician's offices do have a little bit more flexibility. If we say follow through some screening processes first. Don't just assume COVID-19. And I really want to use that term COVID-19, and I know you all have talked about it, because you'll hear a lot, I was just diagnosed with coronavirus. Well, that's different. This is a coronavirus, but there are a list of coronaviruses, and that is we've probably had to put out more rumors than anything, because when an individual says, well, I have coronavirus, well, they may have, but it's not COVID-19, which is what we're particularly concerned with right now.
Everything we know of this strain being different, and why it's leading to the world pandemic, of course. Excellent. Now, with that, also, we hear a lot of people saying, well, what if I just want to get tested? This is the point. We want to make sure that and people understand that there's symptoms that have to be necessary in order to, say, like you said, contacting your personal care physician, going through some screening process before it's just, let's just go get tested.
Absolutely. They're going to be asked, what are your symptoms? Well, a fever, minimum fever of 100.4 is a symptom. The other is some type of coughing, sneezing. A respiratory issue is another symptom that would be involved with this, and that is covered in the screening processes that the primary care physicians use, the hospitals, the health departments, any of our medical providers will use that as a screening tool.
Right.
Unfortunately, some of those are very similar symptoms symptoms to what you see with the flu that is going around,
Right.
and there's other respiratory illnesses that it could be. So that way, if individuals, they go into their office, or they may come into a medical setting, and not the first jump isn't, okay, I need to do that. The first jump is, let me see what I can run on you to
Right.
eliminate before we move to that next step. And it may be a flu panel, it may be other respiratory panels that they look at before they jump into that last.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark, can I ask a question just for clarification? Upper respiratory symptoms
When we're talking about
are not symptoms, correct?
right. We're looking more, you're looking at what's going on within the lungs and issues there with the coughing and the sneezing. The upper respiratory, a lot of that is involved with your allergies, your seasonal allergies.
Right.
You're getting an itchy throat.
And we know the pollen count is ridiculous right now.
It's killing me. So,
Yeah.
I mean, my voice isn't normally this scratchy.
Yeah. and with that, like we said, the pollen, it's the distinction between what we, like you just mentioned, what is the clarification of the respiratory symptoms, right?
Right. And we and I've talked about this with Commissioner Bryan and with other individuals. I mean, we've been going on. The health department has been following this since late 2019. I mean, we knew that there was a novel coronavirus coming out of China, and anytime you have a novel virus, there's not much known about it. So we're constantly watching it, and eventually it was termed COVID-19, and we've been meeting with our emergency management and our hospital individuals since January, having constant meetings, keeping our providers and our primary care providers, giving them information on it, and really planning. And it's not planning,
Right.
Not the what ifs, but the whens. What's going to happen. And my message goes to when we're talking at these meetings, and I'm talking to people, I say, well, with everything that we've been providing since January, February, now into March, if we announced today that there was a case, what would you do differently tomorrow than you should have been doing yesterday?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question.
And the answer to that, unless you're a contact to that case, which we would identify you as, and we would
Right.
work it from the screening process, the answer is nothing, because you should already be doing it. We have been we talk about the social distancing, limiting the big meetings, hand washing, constantly hand washing, hand sanitizers. If you can't find a hand sanitizer, go online. There's ways that you can make it using aloe and rubbing alcohol and just to forms, because you're looking at something that's got a minimum 65% alcohol base to be effective.
Right.
And but we've been telling the sneezing, sneeze into your do the old Dracula move, sneeze into your elbow. If you have a tissue, sneeze into the tissue, throw the tissue away immediately, and just get a fresh tissue. But these are all they're called mitigation practices. There's the containment effort, which is what the health department, we step right in. Let's say we find that if we have our first case, the health department then is in working with that case to find all of their close contacts within the infection period.
Right.
And we look at that infection period, and we find all their close contacts. We notify them, and then we put them on a self-isolation observation for 14 days.
Right.
If any one of those individuals were to start becoming symptomatic, we test them immediately, and then when they come back, we would move on to their contacts, and that's the process for the contact tracing and investigations. And we use that. This is used with any of these infectious diseases.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just important to practice this now. We'll do the containment piece, but we need to practice the mitigation piece, which is everything.
And like you mentioned, the mitigation and the information as far as the symptoms and that screening process is what's allowing you guys to do just what you said, within lieu of the work to find and then trace and to do what you can from there.
Absolutely, and
That's
it really makes our job easier if we're already practicing mitigation. Then we start reaching out to the contacts and like, oh yeah, we've been doing this. I mean, we spoke yesterday to our CEP and gave them some information on businesses, and that's another important thing.
Yeah.
Understanding where you can go to get information, directing to the CDC website on concerns you may have as a business owner, and talking a little bit about things they can do to lessen any impacts on their workforce.
Let me ask you a question. Do you feel, and most of everything when trying to get people to understand at the beginning of the week with the closing of, like when Ohio took with their governor the initiative, almost kind of unprecedented right away, being the first state to have closed everything, really expressed the social distancing with the idea of restaurants, clubs, nightclubs, bars closing down and so forth like that, and we've seen the trend carry on. And a lot of this was to get people to understand, to mitigate all of this with the spread in lieu of this curve we keep talking talking about.
Right.
And for those to understand that, it's the idea of, like we're saying, with the testing for people who have symptoms related to it, and that's what's important. Do you feel that we're in the meat and potatoes of this curve now, or do you think we're still leading up to maybe the height of it? We're not quite at the pinnacle.
I'd hate to speculate, but
Sure.
I mean, just for instance, we're still at zero in Marion.
Yeah.
I don't think we've, I don't think we've seen what we're going to everything we're going to see here, but that's
Sure.
to be expected, and we need to be prepared.
Yes.
So, are we to the point where we say we're flattening the curve? We haven't. I don't think, from my perspective, looking locally and what we're seeing, we haven't gotten to that point. But I certainly believe these mitigation, everything that's been put in place by our governor, by President Trump, and our local governor here in Florida, Governor DeSantis, I think we are making those right steps that will flatten the curve.
Yeah, and I almost feel like there is everything in lieu of the expanse of, like we said, with the governor making its part to close, like we just had on the Rip and Read with beaches, of course, restaurants to something 50 capacity or less, and all this stuff. I think people are starting to now just accept it. And I think that's always the first thing. It's that initial, like, whoa, you just changed my livelihood. You just changed my way of life. But now we're starting to understand that. And that's part of the reason having you here is to just kind of really set that point in to people who are listening to say, hey, listen, that there has been something being done about this for a while now, and now we know we're approaching the bigger parts of it.
Right.
And to continue to be prepared, continue to be prepared for this, and continue to move as it changes as a day-to-day thing.
Absolutely, and I think it's really important for the people to understand that there is a process in place.
Yeah.
And this is, as I was saying, we've been working on the process. Well, this isn't the first. I mean, we've been working on this process for years. We did the process back in 08, 09, H1N1.
Right.
We just didn't get to the did not have to go to the mitigation phase at that point. But you look at today, and the processes that we follow are specifically designed for containment, and there again, what you expect to see is you potentially get a case that's brought in from they were either a contact from another county or they had travel related,
right?
And then when you have that travel related or that imported case, that's where it's very important on the containment and mitigation, because you don't want to get to a point where you have wide community spread, because if you have wide community spread, then that means people are not following the mitigation process that has been outlined.
Right, and that is where the concern lies.
Right.
I think at the end of it, the bottom line is that, from what we've seen happen in Italy, to the idea of making the circumstances be known that with the logistics or the system itself of our healthcare, with however many hospitals are in the county in itself, and then you break that down to how many rooms there are in ICU within those hospitals only in this county, then you start to think of, well, okay, what if there was a mass spread? So that's what we're trying to do. That's the principle of it.
Absolutely, and you bring up fantastic points, because those are being discussed in our meetings with the county and with our hospitals and our providers. How many more beds do you think we need? What kind of this? What kind of? And then that way, through our emergency management system, we put out requests anticipating if this were to happen, this is what we would need. Let's get the supplies here in the event we have to move to that. But I really feel the county, through Commissioner Bryant and our commissioners and our emergency management and our healthcare partners, I really feel like we've taken very, very positive steps to address the win.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're at now is a little bit more of the understanding as more of the important factual news kind of gets to us. I think more people have that understanding, and I think that's something we can draw on as I'm trying to, as I do the whole week, some positive silver lining stuff, as we know that. With the assumptions too that, like, well, hey, it's 90 degrees outside, it's nice out there, but then when I turn on the TV, it's in my face. Well, part of that is to better educate everybody and get them to that understanding. And I think also too, it's also for all of us to just take that minute and just breathe. Yeah, deep breath. Let it let it soak in, give it some thought, but let the human reaction take place instead of the panic and the idea. I think somebody, late night show host, said something. It's like in Manhattan when somebody found out that they had posted on the phone that somebody within the block area had been diagnosed with COVID-19. He said there was the initial animal instinct to go, where is that person? Where are they right now? And then he goes, then the humanality took over and go, oh, I hope they're okay.
Right. And,
let them do what they need to do because the CDC and the health department's working on it.
And exactly what you said, that's just, like I said, it's trust in the system. Understanding that, when someone's identified, trust that the system is working, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, don't sit up late at night worrying about it. Let us sit up late at night handling the situation.
Yeah, hey, that's a good point.
That's why we're here.
That's why you're in the position
we should have
you
those
are.
late nights making sure that everyone else can go to bed at a decent time.
That's right. And also, too, I was going to say, in lieu of everything that we've been hearing from our federal government and the expectations from yesterday trying to increase the velocity of a stimulus idea for those who are going to be out of work, that's working in progress. I'm almost a little bit surprised just how well they're working to come up with a solution on that sense, with how quickly that came up as an idea at the weekend, and here we are in the middle of the week with it almost coming to fruition. That's the idea too. If that's a little bit of faith and trust in that, and now locally we look at it as some faith and trust, and like you said, and what you guys are within that position to say, hey, let us stay awake at night thinking about
that's our job.
The next and the next and the next.
And we do.
Yeah.
But that's our job, and that's what we do, and I can say we have a great staff who does it very well. Gotcha.
Kathy, were you going to add something there? Sorry if I cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, back to what Mark said, they have a tremendous staff over at the Department of Health, Marion County. We have a tremendous staff at Emergency Management. Our healthcare providers, our hospitals, our FQHCs, everyone is working together to make sure that we do the best we can in keeping our community healthy and keeping our community informed. And I think that there does have to be the aspect of personal responsibility as well. And go back to the mitigation that Mark talked about. Wash your hands. Make sure you're using hand sanitizer. If you go to a place that there is community spread, and you come back here, you need to self-isolate. If you have flown on an airline, you need to self-isolate. If you go to a part of the country, if you go out of the country, self-isolation is an important thing, and you need to do it. And I think one of the most important things, if you are sick, stay home.
Yes.
Stay home.
Yes.
That way nobody has to look at you like you've got the plague if you cough in the grocery store. Stay home.
Right.
And the county has taken the following steps. All county offices, all county buildings are open and doing business as usual. We've taken some precautionary measures. We will be doing screening for those that the public coming in, not just to protect the public, but to protect our employees.
Sure.
All of our constitutional offices remain open. We have waived fees at county parks. I had somebody say to me, why would you do that? Why would you encourage people to go to the park? Well, I think that probably now more than ever, following the guidelines.
You can practice social distancing at a county park.
Yes.
There's lots of room to do that. That's the expectations.
It is okay to do that. While we have to be cautious and we have to be vigilant, we also have to use common sense.
Right. I think you nailed it. Like, as much as everybody's been telling you to, wash your hands, use hand sanitizer. I think you nailed it because there's like an underlining there. Hey, be responsible, because at the end of the day, you're going to affect somebody else. Be responsible. Like, if you think about what you're doing as a human being, that's almost like you know what, I got to give it some thought. It's not just mom telling me to wash my hands, but a little bit as to why. A good boy washes his hands.
Well, and another thing, too, is make sure you're getting your information from reliable sources.
True.
And please understand, when information comes from your county government, from your Department of Health, it is accurate and it's up-to-date information.
Yes.
It serves us no purpose to not give reliable, accurate information. If you have questions about testing, Marion County Health Department has instituted a 24/7 hotline, and the number for that is 352-644-2590. The Marion County is constantly putting out updates on our Marion County, Florida Facebook page. I know Mark, they have social media and their website.
Well, we have our website that we recommend individuals go to. It's the state website, www.floridahealth.gov. Right when you go to that website, the very first thing you can click on is COVID-19, and there's toolkits in there for health care partners, businesses, and I think what's important, Commissioner Bryant referenced that number. That is not. There is a number that we were giving that was a state hotline.
Yeah.
We felt like we don't need to send people up to the state. We wanted to do our own.
Absolutely.
So that number we have there is dials directly into the health department, and we have staff there 24/7 answering phone calls. They may not have the answer right at the point, but they take a message and we give it to the subject matter expert, and we get back with those individuals.
Absolutely. Excellent. Well, that brings us to the top of the 11 o'clock hours. We're just a little bit out of time. Great stuff. Thank you for coming in.
I appreciate you having us on and letting us talk the message.
Yeah, then that's good stuff. And remember, everybody out there, to be responsible. As we come to close out the show here, AM Ocala Live, thank you all very, very much. Kathy Bryant, thank you very much. This is great stuff as we head you down. This is what, fourth week?
I think this is the fourth week.
Yeah, good stuff. For AM Ocala Live until tomorrow, which is Friday, as we look forward to the weekend, just for the optimism, knowing it is a weekend, so it feels a little bit better when we stay home, so to speak. For Adam, 96.3 FM, 1370 AM. Until tomorrow, goodbye.
System. This was a system that was out of date, obsolete, or it was a system that was never meant to take care of the number of people that we're talking about, millions and millions of people.
Meanwhile, President Trump has signed into law a multi-billion-dollar coronavirus aid package to Wall Street, where the Dow Jones Industrial Average has been 700 points in early trading today, firmly below the level it was at when President Trump took the oath of office. And this is U.S.